Welcome to the Embodied Mystic podcast, where we explore the path of feminine awakening and luscious womanhood. Together, we'll be diving into topics like sacred sexuality, feminine embodiment, spiritual healing, and soulful relationships. I'm your host, Tamar Raphael, tantric mentor and Aries hype girl, here to guide you back to the temple of your body and fall in love with being a woman. I look forward to journeying together. Hey, Rouven, welcome to the Embodied Mystic podcast.
Yay.
I'm really, really happy to see you again and for us to talk all about conscious uncoupling.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited and happy to be here and talk about this. This is a very dear topic for me.
Yeah, and I feel like there's something also about this time of year. This festive period where a lot of us are seeing our families, and it's a time of year where these subjects can feel also like quite relevant. I mean, the subject is always relevant, subject of relationships and breakups, but yeah, there's something really poignant, I feel, about navigating a transition like this during this time when so many people are coming together and celebrating.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the maybe memories that are connected with encountering like the festivities maybe, but last year I was still with someone else. So that's a time, and I think like even nature shows us that sometimes there's letting go and drawing energy inside, like with autumn and winter, but there's an undercurrent still there. It's not like everything is dying. It's life is still there. It's blossoming again. But right now, yes, we are in the time of drawing inwards, darkness, and stillness maybe.
Yeah. I wonder if you've noticed, but like I've definitely noticed that in kind of like pop culture this time of year, it's a time where people want to be in relationship versus summer where people are more, dating and free and it's all fun and there's parties and you're holidaying. But yeah, there's something about this time of year. It's like people do or they can, just aim to be in a relationship. And yeah, there is something about just like being single.
And that's an interesting perspective, yeah? Like, sure, when it's light and happy and I have stuff to do and my summer vacation, the festivals and stuff, then I'm I wouldn't say distracted, but I'm like active. And now when it's about like, as we said, drawing inwards and stillness and staying at home a little more, I get aware of, oh, actually, I want to have somebody close, that stays with me. But I haven't seen it like that yet.
Interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, because you work with couples, right? Like as a therapist, and that's a big part of your work. I'm curious, like, is there something that you see when you're working with couples when it comes to breakups and navigating those questions around breakups? Like, what do you tend to see in people as we kind of approach this kind of conversation? Or maybe they are breaking up, they're thinking about breaking up. Like, what are the big themes that you see?
Well, I think it's important to see that when I work as a couples therapist, I don't have a actually clear percentage of the normal culture or society. Like the people that come are desperate. So actually, I would answer the question first. Like the first thing is despair. Like we don't want to go there, and we've tried everything, maybe even for years. And my clients then just don't know, are highly frustrated or resignated and really see it as the last thing they can hold on with putting some effort into this therapy then. And sure, that's not a good way to start like consciously relating. Yeah. Yeah, so it's despair and fear, maybe even, of what will happen. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and especially if we've had this partner for a long time, it can feel like a very threatening and intimidating thing to lose someone that we're so close with. Like, I was listening to a podcast today, and the guest, I can't remember his name, but he said, you know, our romantic relationships, our partner is kind of like your best friend and also your family. Like, they have a very unique role in our life.
Yes.
And we tend to, especially if it's a healthy relationship, invest a lot of energy and time into, you know, that relationship and that person. And I feel like it's a big thing. It's a big thing to lose that, even if we are able to maintain a friendship, like still just that initial transition, I think is like really challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a good point where I can jump on, actually, when you say people consider it as an investment. Yeah, like having this relationship. And then most people see the breakup or the like ending of the partnership as, I have invested in something wrong. It's as if something was bad or didn't work out right, or as if I failed. And
Yeah.
the idea of conscious uncoupling or conscious breakup and uncoupling is the idea of the investment is still there. We still have impacted each other. We are still, and ideally maintain, being this person in our lives, but changing the state, changing the container, changing the way we interact, and not just throwing everything to the garbage and say like, okay, where could I invest next? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So for you, is conscious uncoupling a big part of that, is to remain friends and be able to maintain a kind of like really positive relationship with our ex?
Yeah, I would say I actually distinguish the conscious breakup from the uncoupling. The conscious breakup is something like either mutually, or the one respects that the other says, I cannot go on with this partnership anymore. And we try to maneuver that with as little hurt and turbulence as possible. So creating some respect and gratitude and stuff like that. Yeah? But that can also lead into not having contact anymore. The conscious breakup is like ending the relationship in a friendly way, I would say. Yeah. And the uncoupling is actually like, we still are together. We share several whatever ships, yeah, friendships and yeah. But we just take out the partnership, the idea of we will orientate our lives on each other. So we remain friends. We might even remain lovers. We might, like in an extreme version, we might even still live together. And I had that, like, not me personally, but I had clients that say, like, we have a child, we want to be parents, we feel mature enough, and then I help them to maneuver all that, what comes up, but we want to, like, bury the partnership, but stay in living together, stay friends, stay parents. Yeah. And yeah, so that's two things, the breakup and the uncoupling. Yeah.
Okay, this is interesting. I'm learning.
Yeah.
So the breakup is when it's like really final and it's respectful, but there isn't necessarily any future investment into maintaining the relationship.
Right. That's nicely put. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And an uncoupling is more like, or conscious uncoupling is more like we're definitely in each other's lives. We want to remain in each other's lives, but we're decentralizing the relationship and we're together in that process.
Yeah. Yeah. At least that's how I box that in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. I was like, wow, this is really interesting, you know, to get into these nitty-gritties. But yeah, of course, we all have different definitions, right?
And like one like it's so often, even when it's clear in my mentoring that we have to talk about the possibility of breakup.
Yeah.
Then some people say like, yeah, well, they instinctively feel that they can remain friends, and the other might say like no, if we end the partnership, I cut all the cords. Yeah. Like, and then it becomes so desperate, because I don't want to lose you totally. I just don't want to be your partner anymore or share intimacy with you anymore. Yeah. But I don't want to lose you out of my life. But the other one has other boundaries and says like, no, if you take this, I won't remain there at all. So that's the things that come up then. That's where actually it's a good thing that there are people that help guide that. Yeah. Because there is so much involved, like triggers, the feeling of being left alone, like we said already, having invested in something but failed in a way. Yeah. Jealousy, what will happen if a new person comes into your life? Like, friendship is fine as long as I'm still number one, right? And yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, wow. It's so much. And I'm curious, like, do you have a sense or a theory around why some people really don't have a desire to remain friends after a breakup? And like what I'm asking is not like, oh, if there's a horrible breakup and they don't want to be friends. I mean, that's quite clear. But more like if there's a conversation between two at the beginning of the relationship, and it's very clear that one person, like you said, actually doesn't want to remain friends if there's a breakup. Why do you think some people really have this, strong sense is like, if it's not going to be a romantic relationship success, then it's not going to be anything?
Yeah. Well, two things come up spontaneously. I think one thing I see is lack of self-esteem, maybe. Yeah. So I get reminded of my unworthiness, my perceived unworthiness, if we still stay in contact. That's why I have to come into some dominant state and now show you and have hard boundaries and stuff like that. So that's often the case. And the other is actually something like I entered the relationship without the other knowing that I have a clear idea of where we're going and how this should look. So it's not so much about where are we flowing and what do you want to bring, but I need someone that fits my prerequisites. That has certain prerequisites that fits my needs. That's what I want to say. Yeah. And if then the other steps out and says like, hey, we can be flexible here. I'm not that anymore, but I can be this, this, and this for you. Then the other one says, no, I want someone that fits into this box. Yeah. And then we see that that doesn't have so much to do with love, and it doesn't have so much to do with the other, actually. You just played a role for a certain amount of time. Yeah. And that's why I've loved this uncoupling. And that's actually, although it's sad, it has an undertone of grief all the time, because something is coming to an end and changing, and there's so much insecurity. But it's the most humbling and touching situations I have in my therapy, when people manage that and expose themselves to the horror of these feelings coming up, but want to deal with that because they feel like our connection is worth maintaining, although we have different ideas of living our lives, maybe. Yeah.
Mm.
And that's where actually love peaks out in my daily practice the most. When they sit in front of each other and say, like, I don't want to lose you, although I acknowledge that we have to change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that to me also feels like real love. And
Right.
I think, you know, what you were sharing about before, it feels more to me like control, trying to
Mm-hmm.
control the situation. And, you know, I think most of us understand that when we try and control and force things, it's not really allowing what wants to naturally happen to
Right.
happen,
Yeah.
because we're in our heads and we have an agenda,
Mm-hmm.
and we're kind of forcing that onto the situation. But I have found, like, when me and my ex-partners haven't been able to remain friends, it's been the biggest heartbreak for me. And I feel like, oh yeah, I can feel it in my heart actually. I've really devoted myself these last years to like trying to be friends with as many of my exes as I possibly can. And, you know, it takes two to tango. And if they're not, um, you know, willing, then that's how it is. But
Right.
yeah, this has definitely been a subject that I've really grappled with. Um, and I think like what I found really challenging and also just like interesting to observe, um, is just like this desire that I think, or not a desire, it's more like a tendency that I feel is very human, where we really want to like find someone to blame when something goes wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like I so know that inside of me, where I'm like, oh, it's all gone to shit. Who can I blame? And
Mm-hmm.
it's either myself, and then I feel a lot of shame and a lot of guilt,
Yeah.
or it's them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then I'm like full on,
Mm-hmm.
very emotional, not very pleasant to be around. I'm getting better with it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and I think often it's happening at the same time, where there's like I'm blaming myself and I'm
Yeah.
feeling shame and guilt, and therefore I want to like discharge some of the hurt onto the other person, which just makes much more of a mess, of course.
Yeah. Totally. And I think it's actually human, or it's, I would say, actually natural, yeah, for us to try to solve the problem, like, why did this happen? And then
Yeah,
maybe it's my fault or the other ones or whatever. Yeah.
totally.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I know for myself, and I imagine it might be similar for you or for some people who are listening to this, because, you know, this is a podcast for people who love personal development and
Mhm.
self-awareness, who are looking inside and asking questions. I want to learn from my relationships.
Right. Right.
So when a relationship ends, I'm like, ooh,
Mhm.
why? Like,
Mhm.
I want to know what didn't work for them, what
Mhm.
didn't work for me. I really want to know.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
want to grow. I want to learn, even though it might be painful. It's
Yeah.
like if we can listen to the other person and actually attempt to integrate some of what's
Mhm.
being shared with us, you know, by like from someone who has loved us, and, you know, like hopefully they're
Mhm.
able to communicate lovingly and kindly.
Mhm.
But I want to hear
Mhm. Yeah.
from them.
Yeah. And I think actually, relationships are the biggest growth container we can be in. Yeah. And that's why I promote this paradigm of evolutionary relating, as I call it, so much, because it's evolutionary, because it enables us to evolve. It enables us to get more insights on us and be a better or a wholer person afterwards, if we don't want to say better. Yeah, it's about integrity and integrating stuff. Integrity comes from integrating. Yeah, so I might have had shadows playing out in the relationship, and then just being left. I don't know what to do. I like, nobody reflects it back, and I'm figuring out what was the reason. But now imagine staying close together and having the person you were together with before sharing all the shame and the blame and the thoughts and like what is happening in a still respectful way, that both wanna like press the juice out of it in a way, without optimizing, without the idea of optimizing, but actually giving the respect on what has happened with us, yeah, during our journey. And I actually, like, my personal experience is that was the most liberating thing I ever experienced after a very short but intense relationship. That this person, you actually know her, like 1.5 years ago, I met her, yeah, and she decided then, well, this doesn't work, but she was there, she stayed there. She even stayed there when I blamed her for the breakup. She stayed there when, and not just like me, like allowing them to throw all my stuff at her, but with boundaries, but she was available. Yeah. And she told me her, like, everything she discovered in her, and we were in mutual exchange about that. And now I can say this is my best friend. Yeah. And this was actually what helped me come out of my old trauma patterns that were repeatedly showing in every relationship I had. And that took me out of there. Yeah. Like, every relationship afterwards had a different taste. I suddenly don't feel that clingy anymore. I suddenly don't feel that anxious attached anymore. Now I have to maneuver some avoidant attachment styles. Yeah. And like, oh, that's new. Like, I want to be with myself. But what helped there was actually her being there and my system realizing it's not about I'm not lovable. It's not about I messed up. It's not about I'm wrong or I'm false or something like that. It's just, this doesn't work. I want something else. And that was the game changer for me. So there's so much healing potential in this. Yeah. But it's, as you say, it takes two to tango. And maybe we should actually point on that once more, because I cannot force the other to be conscious. I cannot force the other to be respectful or actually interested and curious. And that's the tricky thing. Then it becomes tricky, because there are hurts, there are maybe different opinions, and they can stay different. Yeah. How do we maneuver that now that we don't have to, because we're not a couple anymore? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is so beautiful. I'm so happy that you shared that. And yeah, I feel like I've had a kind of similar experience lately, where like, so a little bit of my personal background and like the way that breakups have kind of, yeah, just like my experience of breakups is that, like, so often when something ends, I have all of this hurt that comes up, like this deep, deep hurt and pain. And it's like, what happened for me mostly in the past is that I just kind of blamed the other person.
Yeah.
You know, and I would come with all of this hurt and pain and rage, and it would be so hard for me to be really conscious in those moments and to understand, like, this is actually not about the other person. It was like in most other places in my life, I could be self-aware,
Mhm.
and in this place, like I really didn't have the capacity because the feelings were so overwhelming.
Yeah.
But in my last relationship, and you also know him, it was such a beautiful and healthy and just like clean relationship. Like
Mhm.
we loved each other and we communicated, and we, still love each other and communicate very well. And it was so, I don't know, it just felt really grounded and
Yeah.
really rooted. And, you know, in this breakup, I actually felt all of those same things coming up again. And I was like, oh my God, these feelings are so strong. I feel really angry at him. I feel, all of these things. Like I feel dropped. I feel, these really like abandoned, all
Mhm.
these
Mhm.
things. And because our relationship was so beautiful and so healthy, it was actually that helped me to understand, like, this isn't about him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, he hasn't done anything wrong, even though it really feels like he has.
Yeah. Yeah.
He actually hasn't.
Mhm.
And there's like too much love and too much
Mhm.
consciousness
Mhm.
between us
Mhm.
for me to go back into those
Right.
patterns.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Mm.
Thanks for sharing that.
Mm. Yeah, feels good to share. And I mean, it took the kind of relationship that was so healthy, and it was like our relationship was based in having our feet firmly on the ground,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
and not being so wrapped up in the connection that we're losing,
Mhm.
our connection to ourselves. And I do feel like many romantic relationships today are very yeah, it's like wrapped in all of this fantasy and romance. And
Mhm.
when I was in relationships that were coming more from that place, I've had many,
Mhm.
and it was much like I wasn't able to be
No.
this aware in those
Mhm.
relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think in those relationships, in this over entangled, yeah, like we all know how easy to go there, and it feels so nice as long as it's working, right? But that's maybe more the tendency of having an idea of how this should be, and as long as it's working fine, and then we can just throw ourselves in. But it's not so much about the reality of where the other is really is or is heading. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I feel so beautiful, or think it's so beautiful when you just shared that. It's about honoring the relationship. It's about honoring how we interact with each other, but still the triggers pop up, and still our system is so much concerned with blaming, shaming, security patterns, safety. I don't want to feel this. But the imprint of the relationship and the love was so strong that we gain a new capacity to honor that, and for that step over our instinctual patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the gift that is in there. I mean, how beautiful is that? You touched me that deeply that my instincts and patterns don't have a chance. Although they want to tell me you are an asshole, yeah, I cannot, because I have seen you, I have met you really, yeah.
Oh.
I cannot go there. I think that's beautiful, and that's what I mean. Yeah, if people go there and allow me to help them on their way, that's yeah.
Oh, it's making me emotional. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is a great moment to yeah, touch a little bit on grief,
Yeah.
and the feelings of loss that can come up when we're navigating a breakup. And Yeah, I'm curious, like, how has your journey been around navigating loss, and what do you recommend, like, for your clients when they're navigating this? What have you found helps?
Well, I think we shouldn't romanticize the uncoupling either. We should acknowledge that there is loss and that there is grief, and don't override it with, wow, we're still friends and we still meet, and isn't this like, it's still respectful. That's one part, but yes, there's also something lost. We both planned this differently. Yeah. So just acknowledging that I am grieving, and I don't have to be in my best mood all the time. Yeah, is the first part, not overriding it, not distracting me from that. But then the second, really finding options to move and process the grief through writing, through talking, through maybe if you're singing or whatever, art. Yeah, through talking with your friends. Maybe if it's an uncoupling and you're still in connection, showing your tears and all those feelings of I'm so small and now I'm lost, and whatever is attached to the grief. Yeah. So in a nutshell, I would say the grief doesn't have to go away. I think that the best thing we can actually do is acknowledge that this person was a part of our lives, has a place in our home, a home in our heart, and the grief comes from, now this place is it's not vacant, but it's changing in a way. Yeah, this and allowing that. So I might grieve this certain type of connection all my life. It doesn't have to go away. At some point still I have to move on, yes, but I don't need to get rid of the grief to move on, and I shouldn't use the moving on to bypass my grief.
Yeah.
So let it grieve, let it cry. Like that's what a lot of people say. I'm working with grief a lot in the last time, and even having a training there, yeah, from Francis Weller, and he says we need to grieve so much. Like what the world needs is connection to our grief, because it opens the eyes. Like the tears literally clear our sight. Yeah, and they humble us. Yeah, and from that I can acknowledge how important this person is, and then maybe prevent me from pointing the finger or doing the same stuff again, becoming more aware. Yeah, but grief, just grief, but don't be alone with the grief. Like, show your grief, bring it out through art, through contact, like with friends. That's very important. We shouldn't grieve alone. We shouldn't only grieve alone.
Yeah, it's such a good point. And I wanted to ask you, because you and I are in the same community, and we're dating in similar circles, and this is something that I've actually found really challenging to navigate, is this thing of being in community and feeling sensitive about who I'm sharing with, about the breakup, and it's like navigating maybe some awkwardness with mutual friends, or friends who I met through my partner. It's like what to say to who, and how to be really honest and authentic and real, but then respect, the previous partner's privacy. And I'm curious, like, how has your experience been of that, and just like just navigating the fields that we're a part of, and having your own process.
Well, I think it's tricky. It's a minefield in a way. Yeah, but the respect is the thing. Like I hope if I talk with people that also know my exes, yeah, that they feel there is a respect there. There's an acknowledgement there.
Yeah.
So where's the problem then to share things, yeah? And I shouldn't run around now and need to tell everyone. But if they know anyhow, or met her earlier and now they met me, and yeah, it's not about sides. These yeah, we tend to go on sides and validate. Yeah, it's just about validating our perspective of who's to blame again. Yeah, like I feel like a victim because I was left, and now I have someone telling me, well, you're still worthy, and it feels so good. But trying to prevent that with just, again, acknowledging that it didn't work out or someone moved on, but that doesn't mean something is wrong. So this is the one part, yeah, how we talk about people in the same community or same field. And the other is then what you said is the dating part, like one moves on, or is maybe still in grief and loss, but has the capacity to already open up with another, and that just adds the trigger and increases the impact. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes, it's such a big one.
And it just, like, I would actually say it just requires tons of capacity.
Yes.
And it's not about like, okay, wow, this is high-end relating or whatever. It's not something you should even prove to be able to. But well, it's nothing to want, but you should check your capacity if you are able to do that, actually. Yeah, if you are able to stay in connection, because in some cases having a real cut of connection is totally valid.
Yeah.
I shouldn't pressure myself to be oh so aware when actually it causes more hurt to see my ex cuddle with another woman.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't need to expose myself. That's what I mean with we shouldn't pressure ourselves there. It's not the ideal, but when it comes from this respect, and when it comes from the love, and I actually, yes, it hurts, but I'm actually happy that you can open up again. If it's really genuine, yeah, then it's something else.
Yeah, it can be. And I think my personal experience of that is that when a romantic relationship ends, I've found that it's healthier for me to have a little bit of space and have a break from communication to kind of just like disentangle myself, and like also it's like let the energetic fields kind of just like separate a little bit and just have some space so that there can be like a natural redefining and recalibration of like what is actually the most appropriate way for myself and this person, like what, like to find our right relationship. You know, it's like what's the right format for us now. And I've found like I need some space in that process. And yeah, my gosh, Rouven, I've lived in a few communities, and I've yeah, been very, very triggered by seeing my exes with someone new, and it's been right in my face so many times. And I'm not like, I'm not a very comfortable open relater. It's not really my style. So even this, I mean, I find it so so difficult. Like so difficult. It takes me quite a long time to really feel happiness for my ex in their new relationship.
Okay. Yeah.
No, and it does come eventually, but it really takes me some time. And, you know, I was speaking to a beautiful woman. She's one of the listeners of this podcast, and she was just sharing a little bit about this, like, really, really challenging experience of like comparing ourselves to the new partner, you know, and like, yeah, it's like looking at the new partner and I don't know, just comparing ourselves to them. And it's like I've done this before. It's like convincing myself that this new woman has all these things that I could never embody, and I wasn't good enough, and now he's with her. And I mean, I was smiling, but obviously, like, it's just devastating. And I feel like it's so human and so normal. But yeah, it's just another kind of hurdle on this path, right? Of like breaking up and almost like renegotiating the attachment to the person, and like, yeah, redefining who is this person in my life, and how do I manage these feelings?
Yeah.
How do I deal with them?
Yeah. Like I can totally relate to all of that, and that is what makes it often so hard or even impossible that we can stay that close and connected. But I think actually from from a coaching perspective, where I help people to maneuver this, I would actually say it's as you shared, it's a good way to do it, to first create some distance, to entangle, to in a way cleanse myself from the attachment a little. But it's not just that we decide, okay, we have an uncoupling and we will stay in connection, and then we just do that. As you said, what wants to emerge then? Like we have a few weeks with no contact or a little contact, maybe one check-in a week or something like that, to let the air like to breathe, and then see, okay, where do we meet? So the uncoupling is actually not something you plan. You can wish for it, but actually after these 2 or 3 weeks, when my ex tells me, okay, I actually already met someone else, it's like, oh, this is actually too much for me. It goes over my capacity. So that prevents me from staying so close to you. So we have to see what is naturally evolving there. And then it can become something that I call, per definition, uncoupling, which is we're not a partnership anymore, but we maintain all the other connections or some other connections. But that's a thing of expressing boundaries, staying in good, respectful communication, talking initially with the other, like informing the other, like, okay, I will be at this event. If you don't want to see me, don't come. Something like that. I'm open for dating again. I just want you to know. I want you to know hear from me that I am encountering other people. I don't want to let you hear it from a third person. Things like that. So we can still respect and ask, like, what are your needs here to move on, so we can stay in connection. It's not just we go on with we're free and now and I can do what I want. I still respect you and I still have you in focus, while knowing that our path isn't going closer. It's more coming parallel at whatever distance.
I was speaking with someone the other day, and he said, just very wisely, he was like, when two people break up, or like when something doesn't work out, it's really often just timing, And he was like, it's not personal. It's never personal. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, this feels like a very kind perspective, because I feel like sometimes it is personal. Sometimes it is like our personal characteristics just are not gelling and not working out for like a healthy relationship with someone else long term. But Oh my God, it's like there's something about breakups that it's so hard not to take them personally. And I know, like, I have to remind myself again and again and again, to be like, it's not personal. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
Like, we
Yeah.
want different things, that some things that are not quite aligned. But why do you think that we as humans find it so challenging? Like, or what, like, why do we take these things so personally, breakups especially?
Well, I think you could go very deep there when you see, like, why do we choose a close partner anyway? And why is this even in some cases a primary partner or even a monogamous partner? Like, why am I looking, like, why do I seem to have an intrinsic motivation and a need to attach to one other being that deep? And we could, like, find the roots there in our childhood and how we attach anyhow. Yeah. But I would say, to make it a little more superficial but explainable, with our partners, we let these people in the most, actually. After our maybe best friends and in earlier years our parents, these are the people that we have a intrinsic motivation to really be vulnerable with. At the same time, we don't want to be hurt, and that's why we are, like, tiptoeing back and forth, trying to, but in the course of the relationship, we open up so much. And then it's so, as you say, devastating and horrifying and so hurtful, than feeling I am not the chosen one. Like, although I showed myself, and a lot of people go there from this hurtful experience of a breakup and then close down and don't show their vulnerable parts anymore at all.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the wrong way to do it. I would say increase capacity to hold the pain and hold the grief, and create a field of friends and community around you that supports you, that tells you that you are lovable whenever you need to hear it, and then rip your heart open and jump in. Not naive, but like, we can only fulfill this need that we have when we engage with an open heart. Although the risk is, or the end always is, that we will be left. That's always the case, even if it ends with death. But at some point, this too shall pass. Like, this is just the truth. And going in a relationship with this idea, this too shall pass, and we have loved once. Maybe we love now, but at one point we will have loved once. Why should we end that? Maybe we can change the structure. We need to change our interaction. We change the closeness. But why would I actively prevent myself from loving you through creating stories about you, or distracting myself from you, or something like that? So I actually think these are the two prerequisites we bring. This too shall pass. So this will be over at one point. I know that while I start, and I know the love can remain. I won't actively decrease the love. So, and with that, having a support team, like friends and family and community helps. And as I said, it's not something to achieve. It's not something like, oh yeah, I want to love that way. It is when love strikes you that deep, because your heart is that open, then love takes you there, I would say. As I said before, it enables you to step out of your reactive patterns. So it's not so much, I don't want to have it be understood like this is the super duper hype way of relating now. This is just something that can happen, that I can hold my grief and my pain and my stories but still have my heart open.
Yeah, that is such a beautiful and important distinction to make, that it's like we're not putting this way of navigating a relationship transition on a pedestal. It's not like the way we should all aspire to, or the most spiritual way. But yeah, I think it was so beautiful how you said it. It's like, if it's there because the love is deep enough, then it's there, and it's a beautiful path.
It's a cleansing path. It's a, in the best sense, humiliating path.
Humbling, yeah.
Humbling, path, and it's but it like burns all the stories I tell myself to step up in the mornings and be in good mood. It burns them away. Like I really need to look in my mirror, in the mirror there. But I would say it's worth it, and I'm grateful I experienced that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Just kind of looking over my notes to see if there was anything else. There was something, actually, I saw it online, but there's this kind of theory or notion, and I'm curious to hear like your perspective on it. So I saw something that says that women tend to grieve breakups first, whereas men can sometimes have like a delayed reaction and end up grieving or processing it later, but for much longer. I mean, do you think there's any truth to that?
I haven't heard about that and didn't make up my mind yet, but hearing that, it makes sense, and it applies to what I see very much. I even like I have couples sometimes, like I have this package for 4 sessions, and they can stretch over 2 to 3 months, and what I have there is, in the first 2 sessions, the woman in that case expresses that she needs a breakup, or she wants to divorce, and the man in that case is fighting for the marriage. But then, after not seeing each other for 5 or 6 weeks, he's already in the new relationship, and she's like devastated by that. Like, what? Like she needed the breakup, but still stayed far more in a way. Sure, I can like guess about the reasons, more access to emotions socially, or things
that
like
women
that.
have. You mean it's more acceptable for women to be in touch with their emotions?
Yeah, I think like we are still socialized that way. There is a shift going on, and I'm always glad when I have men in front of myself that cry, or that are the more emotional there, but we are still socialized that way. I can guess about reasons, but I would say there is something to it.
It's interesting, like there does seem to be a pattern in a way. I mean, this is another conversation, maybe we can touch on it a little bit, but yeah, this question of like moving on, dating again after a breakup. It's like, when's the right time for that? And obviously this is such a deeply individual thing, but to be really transparent, I mean, I was on a date the other day, and it was such a beautiful date, such a wonderful man. And actually it was like so lovely that it really confronted me, and I was like, became a little bit avoidant. And it helped me realize like I'm actually not ready. Because when there's a beautiful thing in front of me, and actually like I need more space, and that feels really good. also
Yeah.
to be clear about and just be like, okay, yeah, I am not ready.
Yeah. Yeah. I would totally relate and agree there. It's not about, oh, I need to spend a certain time alone now. Yeah. Which also doesn't mean I should go out and distract myself. Yeah. I should feel what is actually happening. But it might lead to self-judgment or judgment from outside persons, maybe my ex, if I date too early in their view. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a popular decision.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say communication is key there. Yeah. If we still hang out in the same community or actually want to go for something like we are talking about here now, uncoupling, yeah, then it's communicating. Like hey, I feel I'm still grieving us. This is a part in me that's concerned about that, but there's also, I met someone maybe even by chance without even looking, and I also feel I can at the same time grow something there. But communicate that to your ex, and communicate that to the new person, because when you then realize like, oh, I'm actually not ready, it would be like, this is actually what I have to take account for. This is what I did. I wanted to be ready because this woman is so wonderful. It would be so wonderful to be with her, but I wasn't ready. So I tried and tried and tried and tried, and she relied on it. But again and again, I had to pull back and say like, no, actually, I'm not ready. Yeah. So that's not fair either. So communication is key, I would say.
And I'm curious, Rouven, because, it sounds like you and I are actually in a similar place.
Yes. Yeah.
Not ready. I'm wondering, like, what do you feel are some good, like, internal markers within us where we would know, like, I'm ready again? I don't know if this is something that maybe you're still in a contemplation.
Yeah, well, maybe something like I feel a little more distance, emotional to when there are potentially triggering things happening with my ex. Yeah. Like I can be happy for her meeting another person. There's still a part of me that says like, I'm comfortable, but I can hear it and not freak out, for example. Yeah. And at the same time, when I meet other people, I'm not comparing this new person to the ex. Maybe two markers of, okay, I am more or less a blank slate again. Yeah. Which I never am, but yeah. Like maybe that.
Yeah, that feels really congruent with my experience as well. They're good things to remind myself of.
Yeah. And I would say also from my personal experience, it's also helpful to not hop into the next relationship.
Definitely.
I perceived now you can be several years without a relationship. If you have told me that 5 or 10 years ago, I wouldn't believe you. Like, no, this is impossible. Yeah. I mean, people immediately go on dating apps. Yeah. They immediately, like, wow. Like, just stay at home, build your friend zone, like, do fun stuff, cook for yourself, like, really nurture yourself. You don't need this partner. Yeah. It's nice to have. But if it comes from some really grown stability that had time to foster like my sense of self and boundaries and what I really want.
Yeah.
When it comes from there, that's a good point, I would say.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I've found that taking intentional breaks from dating and relationship have been so powerful for me. And I actually have another episode that's just about this, if anyone's
Nice.
curious to listen to
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I did 6 months at the beginning of this year of no dating and no relationships, and oh my God, I think I might do it again.
It was so good, I do it again.
Honestly, I mean,
Yeah.
I said it to my partner when we were in a relationship. I was like, if this doesn't work out, I might just go back, because it was so like,
Yeah. Yeah.
wow, I gained so much by just like really focusing my energy and being very intentional. I love love, and I can spend a lot of my life in different relationships that are beautiful and very emotional, and they can be distracting,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's also a tricky side to it. Like I've been more or less alone quite a while now, because of the person I was trying to come closer with living abroad. So it was a long distance relationship, and so I've been living in my apartment alone quite a while now, and it nurtures this hermit in me. Like I really think twice who I let in here. Yeah. Who I like, I have
Oh,
my routines. I know where my cup
yeah.
is. I have my whatever. Yeah. And
Yeah.
when I met my ex, then it was like planned because we had to travel and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now having the opportunity to have someone close nearby in the city I live in. Yeah. I don't know about that. Like it's this avoidant part, yeah. And I have to be
Yeah.
careful there actually, and open
Wow.
up again, yeah. So it's
That's
so tricky. Like relating is so courageous, yeah.
I can totally relate to what you've shared, and actually is very similar to my last relationship as well. Yeah, we can get a little too independent, potentially. But thank you so much for coming on the show, Rouven. This has been such a nourishing, interesting conversation. And yeah, I'm curious to ask, like, how can people work with you? Where can they find you and your work?
Yeah, I have a website. Yeah, and I guess you put it in the show notes. Yeah. Yeah, I have a website where you can read about my work and yeah, get in contact and just write me an email or over Instagram or Facebook. I have sites there where I share inspirations, but also my offers concerning workshops and trainings. Like I developed an own method of couples therapy the last years out of my 13-year experience now. So I train since 3 years, train other coaches and therapists in my method of couples therapy, which is trauma aware, needs oriented, and has this new paradigm perspective of conscious relating and not forcing things to work. Yeah. So if there are professionals, yeah, you can learn from me and everyone else. I work in person in Finland and Germany, and online all over the world. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. Thanks for
Amazing.
giving me the opportunity to share that. Yeah.
You're so welcome. Okay, so I'm gonna stop recording. Did you want to say anything else? Okay.
Well, just thank you so